Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're a fan of theme parks, you're probably familiar with Six Flags, home to some of the most popular attractions in the country. But recently, something's been going wrong at parks like Six Flags Great Adventure, Carowinds, and King's Dominion, under CEO Richard Zimmerman's leadership. We've seen a troubling trend, ride closure with absolutely no prior announcement to guests. Now, this isn't just an isolated incident. In fact, Zimmerman strikes again with these sudden ride shutdowns, leaving many guests frustrated and confused. And while ride closures themselves are not uncommon in the theme park industry, the real issue here is the lack of transparency and communication. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into why this is a huge problem, not just for Six Flags, but for the entire theme park experience. In 2024, Richard Zimmerman took over as CEO of the new Six Flags in 2024, during a difficult time for the theme park industry. After the pandemic hit, Six Flags was forced to adapt, cutting costs and reevaluating its operations. Some of those decisions were understandable, especially as the company tried to recover. But one major trend has emerged under his leadership that's hard to ignore: sudden ride closures with little or no explanation. It's not just a one-time issue either. At major parks like Six Flags Great Adventure, Carowinds, and King's Dominion, guests have experienced days of ride shutdowns without any prior warning or announcements. This includes popular flagship rides that visitors are specifically coming for, and when these rides go down, there's typically no explanation as to why or when they might reopen. This lack of communication has become a defining feature of Zimmerman's tenure as CEO and for many fans. It's becoming a serious issue, but why is this happening? It could be due to a variety of factors, from maintenance problems to staffing shortages. Regardless of the reason, the key problem here is the complete lack of transparency. Instead of informing guests in advance, or at least offering them a clear explanation on the day of the closure, Zimmerman's leadership has left many visitors in the dark, and that is where Zimmerman strikes again. Why is this lack of communication such a big deal? Let's break it down. Number 1, guest experience. The guest experience is the backbone of any theme park, and right now, Six Flags is failing to deliver on that front. When a guest shows up excited to ride a particular attraction, maybe it's Fury 325, or a coaster they've never been on and waiting to experience for years, and they find out it's closed without warning. It's a huge letdown. No one wants to spend a day in a park that feels disorganized or unpredictable, especially King's Dominion, and especially after paying for tickets. Food, parking, and souvenirs. Imagine the frustration of planning your entire day around a major ride, only to find out when you get there that it's closed for maintenance, or out of service, with no prior notice. It doesn't just disrupt your day, it creates a sense of mistrust between the guest and the park. Visitors might leave the park early or feel that they didn't get their money's worth, which ultimately impacts their likelihood of returning. Number 2, customer trust and brand reputation. And that leads us to Six Flags' brand reputation. Trust is everything in the theme park industry, and without it, a park is doomed. Negative guest experiences are shared quickly online and in the era of social media. Bad news spread fast. If you look at Six Flags' social media platforms or review sites like TripAdvisor, you'll see guests venting their frustrations over ride closures, especially those that happen without any prior notice. The result, a tarnished reputation that could take years to rebuild. When Richard Zimmerman fails to communicate with customers about ride closures, it's not just a poor guest experience, it's a reputation killer. Guests are more likely to trust a park that keeps them informed and shows respect for their time and money. And as we've seen with some of these closure incidents, the damage to trust can be substantial. Number 3, lost revenue. Now let's talk about money. If guests feel let down by unexpected closures, they're more likely to cut their visit short or decide to not return at all. Six Flags parks rely on repeat business, whether it's returning customers or guests who purchase food, merchandise, or fast lanes. When key attractions are unavailable, people may leave early and spend less money on these additional purchases, which are critical for the park's profitability. In a competitive landscape where people have so many entertainment options, the last thing Six Flags can afford is alienating potential guests. When guests feel disappointed, they're less likely to purchase tickets for future visits. The same can be said for annual passes, which are a significant source of revenue for parks like Six Flags. If customers can't trust the attractions they're paying for will be open, they might not want to commit to the park in the future. The impact on employees and staff. But it's not just the guests who are affected. Employees also bear the brunt of this issue. When ride closures happen unexpectedly, park staff are often left scrambling, trying to answer questions from guests who are frustrated and confused, like with Kingda Ka. Imagine being an employee at one of these parks, knowing that some of the most popular attractions are down, but having no clear explanation or timeline for when they might reopen. This lack of communication doesn't just impact guests, it also makes its staff's job harder. When employees feel unprepared or unsupported by management, morale drops. They can't do their best work when they're kept in the dark, and this frustration can lead to higher turnover and disengagement. If the staff feels like they're not getting the support they need from higher-ups like Richard Zimmerman, it's going to affect their interactions with guests, and that can directly impact the overall guest experience. The bigger picture. Why it's bad for the industry. Now, let's zoom out for a second. This issue isn't just about Six Flags. It's about the entire theme park industry. If Six Flags, under Zimmerman's leadership, continues to operate this way, it sets a concerning precedent other parks could start adopting. Similar practices, thinking that it's acceptable to shut down rides without proper communication, like the Eiffel Tower at King's Dominion, even though it's standing but not operating. This would be a huge mistake for the industry as a whole. Guests today have higher expectations, and they want to know what they're walking into when they visit a park. They want transparency, especially when it comes to major attractions. If Six Flags keeps taking this approach, it could hurt the industry's overall credibility and customer satisfaction. Transparency is key to building trust, and without it, theme park risks alienating a growing generation of savvy, online-connected visitors who demand better. So to wrap things up, while we can't always control when rides need maintenance or when staffing issues arise, Six Flags had to do a better job of communication with its guests. These sudden, unannounced closures, especially with no explanation, are damaging the guest experience, the company's reputation, and ultimately its bottom line. Richard Zimmerman's approach has led to several instances where Zimmerman strikes again. With these closures, and it's time for the company to reassess how it communicates these issues to the general public. If Six Flags could find a way to balance operational efficiency with transparency, it could go a long way in restoring trust with its customers and improving the overall guest experience. But until that happens, these sudden ride closures without proper notice will continue to create frustration for visitors, employees, and the brand itself. Thanks for watching today. How you experienced a ride closure at Six Flags recently? Let me know in the comments what your experience was like. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give this video a like, as it helps greatly against the YouTube algorithm. And a great way to show support to the channel is considering subscribing, as it only takes 1 second of your day. And please make sure to share with your fellow theme park fans. Until next time, King's Dominion updates.